Venezuelan Su-30 fighter jets closed fast, dropped altitude, and locked fire control radar on the United States Navy carrier USS George Washington in the middle of the Caribbean, pushing the situation past any safe military line. 4:58 a.m. Caribbean Sea, 90 miles north of the Venezuelan coast. Two radar tracks surged straight toward the carrier group at nearly 600 knots, descending from 30,000 feet. No radio contact, no hesitation, just a direct line inward, tightening by the second as the distance burns away. The jets do not level off or hold a buffer zone. They adjust course toward the United States patrol line, angling in instead of breaking away. This is not a flyby. This is a deliberate move that ignores standard air safety and forces a response. Inside the ship, warning tones begin to rise. Radar symbols compress. The range ring slips under 100 miles. Fire control alerts flash across multiple consoles at once. Voices drop lower. Words get shorter. No one looks away from the screens. Every update matters now. This is not confusion. This is not bad navigation. The timing, the speed, and the radar lock make it clear this is a calculated signal, a direct test of how far the United States will allow the line to be pushed. What the Venezuelan pilots do not see is the full picture forming on American sensors long before they believe they are close enough to matter. If you want to follow this confrontation second by second, stay right here. What happened in those minutes matters because of where it unfolded and who was involved. The Caribbean is not empty water. It is one of the busiest shipping corridors in the Western Hemisphere, carrying fuel, food, and commercial traffic that moves every day between the Americas. Any military incident here risks pulling civilians into the picture, whether anyone intends to or not. The United States Navy carrier USS George Washington was operating in international airspace and international waters, following established patrol routes. There was nothing unusual or hidden about its presence. Carrier groups move through this region regularly to maintain freedom of navigation and reassure partners who rely on open sea lanes. From a legal standpoint, the ship had every right to be exactly where it was. For Venezuela, that same presence carried a very different meaning. Tensions in the region have been rising, especially with the dispute involving neighboring Guyana and offshore energy areas. Power projection matters in moments like this. Flying jets directly toward a carrier is not about tactics alone. It is about showing resolve, creating pressure, and testing how firm the response will be. For the sailors on board, this was not a headline or a political statement. It was a real-time decision space. When a radar lock appears, there is no distance between strategy and survival. Every person in that operations room understands what a locked radar can lead to if it continues unchecked. There is no assumption that the other side will blink in time. That is why moments like this are so dangerous. One aggressive move forces the next decision faster. A few miles closer, a few seconds later, and options narrow. What looks like signaling from afar becomes a direct challenge up close, and once that line is crossed, pulling back is no longer simple. The situation now is no longer about presence. It is about control, discipline, and whether escalation can still be stopped before it locks itself in. Inside the operation spaces of USS George Washington, the shift is immediate. The incoming tracks are already on the screen. No one needs to announce it. Detection has happened. Now it is confirmation. The radar operator leans in, tightens the display, and checks speed, altitude, heading. Nothing changes. The vectors stay aggressive. The lock stays firm. A hand pauses above a control panel. Not shaking, just waiting. Another pair of eyes flicks from one screen to the next, checking that what they are seeing matches what the ship's sensors are reporting. It does. There is no ambiguity. The system confirms what the room already knows. These jets are not passing through, they are coming in. The report moves forward, calm and clipped. Two hostile tracks, fire control active, range decreasing. The words are plain, but everyone in the room understands the weight behind them. This is the point where mistakes become permanent. This is also where discipline matters more than speed. The order does not come immediately. 2 seconds pass. Long seconds. No one speaks. No alarms are sounded. The carrier holds course and speed. There is no turn away, no visible reaction that would reward the approach. That restraint is deliberate. The response is being shaped, not rushed. What separates this moment from panic is process. Every step follows a sequence that has been drilled for years. Detection leads to confirmation. Confirmation leads to options. Options are held, not spent. The United States response is not emotional. It is controlled, measured, and built to leave room for the other side to stop before the edge is reached. The sailors in that room know exactly what is being tested. Not just the ship, but the decision-making on board. If you think the carrier should have turned away at this point, press 1" the comments. If you think holding course was the right move, press 9 and subscribe to follow how this confrontation unfolds. The situation remains live. The distance continues to close. And now, the next move will decide whether this stays a warning or becomes something far more serious. The room feels tighter as the tracks keep closing. On the main display, the symbols do not blink or drift. They hold their line, speed steady, altitude low. Every update arrives faster than the last. The radar sweep refreshes. Nothing improves. Nothing backs off. On board USS George Washington, the strain shows in small ways. A watch officer shifts weight from one foot to the other. Someone clears their throat and stops. Headsets press harder against ears. No one wants to miss a word. No one wants to speak out of turn. Another range check comes in, closer now. The red zone is no longer a marker on a chart, it is a countdown. Screens begin to crowd with data, tracks overlap, alerts stack. The system is doing exactly what it was built to do, but it demands attention in return. More inputs, more decisions, less time. The ship does not change course. That choice matters. A turn would signal concern. A speed change would invite pursuit. Holding steady keeps the burden on the approaching jets. If they want this encounter to continue, they have to keep pushing. A brief pause, half a second where nothing updates. Then everything updates at once. Bearings refined, angles sharpened. The picture becomes clearer, not safer. This is the point where crews feel the weight of control. Too slow and options shrink. Too fast and escalation locks in. Below decks, procedures move quietly into place. No running, no raised voices, just hands moving where they should, checks completed without comment. This is not theater. This is preparation without commitment, readiness without noise. Another warning flashes. The range slips again. The gap between observation and action is now thin enough to feel. The people in the room know this moment from training, but training never carries the same pressure as the real thing. Out there are real pilots, real aircraft, real consequences. The escalation is no longer about speed or distance. It is about whether one side believes the other will blink first. And with every mile lost, that belief becomes harder to hold. The change does not announce itself with noise or movement. It appears as inconsistency. A track hesitates, then corrects, then hesitates again. On one screen, it looks normal. On another, it does not line up. The data is still coming in, but it no longer agrees with itself. This is the moment the shift begins, not with weapons, but with control. The picture the Venezuelan pilots think they are building is no longer the picture the United States is seeing. Small gaps open between reality and what their instruments are telling them. At first, it feels like interference. Then it feels like delay. Then it feels like doubt. Nearby, aircraft designed for a different kind of fight are already working. The EA-18G Growler does not rush in or show itself. Its role is quieter than that. Signals are shaped. Noise is placed where it hurts the most. What matters is not power, but timing. Inside the carrier group, the effect is obvious. The incoming tracks start to behave oddly. Speed readings flicker. Altitude updates arrive a fraction late. The jets are still there, but their certainty is slipping. The operators notice it instantly. They do not celebrate it. They note it and wait. The pilots on the other side do not feel defeated yet. That is important. The systems are not dead. They are unreliable. A contact appears slightly off position. Another seems to jump. For a split second, there are more returns than there should be. then fewer. Nothing is clear enough to act on with confidence. This is the danger of the moment. Confusion at high speed over open water leaves no margin. Every second spent questioning a screen is a second not spent flying cleanly. The Venezuelan jets are still pressing in, but now they are doing it with less trust in what they are seeing. The carrier does not move. No course change, no visible response. That steadiness makes the uncertainty worse. When the other side does not react, it forces the doubt inward. What no one in those cockpits understands yet is that this uncertainty is not accidental. It is designed, and once it sets in, it is very hard to shake. The next change comes without warning. One of the Venezuelan pilots tries to stabilize the picture by switching modes. The display refreshes. For a moment, it looks better. Then it gets worse. Contacts do not sit where they should. Distances feel wrong. The ocean below is steady, but the instruments are not. Up here, at this speed, pilots live by trust. Trust in numbers, trust in symbols, trust that what appears on the screen reflects what is actually outside the canopy. That trust is starting to crack. Not enough to turn back yet, but enough to slow reactions by a second, sometimes two. While that hesitation grows, something else is happening that the Venezuelan crews cannot detect at all. From a direction they are not watching, aircraft they cannot see are moving into position. No radar warning, no clear visual cue. Just empty sky that is no longer empty. The first hint is subtle, a shadow where there should be none, a shape that does not match the noise on the display. One pilot glances left, then forward again, unsure if the eye just played a trick. At this range, the brain fills gaps quickly, and that can be dangerous. Behind them, American fighters settle into place with controlled ease, close enough to see the aircraft type, close enough to read body language through the canopy. This is not a chase. It is a demonstration of access. If weapons were selected, this would already be over. No radio calls come from the United States side. None are needed. The silence carries its own message. You are being watched. You have been outpaced. You are not in control of this encounter. Inside the Venezuelan cockpits, the realization lands unevenly. One pilot senses it before the other, a tightening in the chest. A decision forming that no one wants to say out loud. The mission has crossed from pressure to risk, and risk is no longer balanced. The lead jet makes a small adjustment. Not aggressive, not panicked, just enough to test whether space still exists. The response is immediate. The American aircraft holds position effortlessly, as if attached by an invisible line. That is when the meaning becomes clear. This was never about how close the jets could get. It was about who controlled the space once they did. And in that moment, the answer is unmistakable. The decision comes quietly, without any sudden movement or sharp command. The lead Venezuelan jet eases off first, just a few degrees, just enough. The fire control tone drops. The radar lock disappears. That single change says more than any radio call ever could. For several long seconds, nothing else changes. The American fighters remain exactly where they are, steady and close, close enough to remove all doubt. They do not chase, they do not maneuver. They simply stay there, silent, letting the moment sink in. The ocean below looks calm, but inside the cockpits, everything has shifted. Then the second Venezuelan jet follows. The turn south is clear now, afterburners flare and fuel burns fast as distance finally begins to open. The retreat is not chaotic, but it is unmistakable. This is no longer pressure, it is disengagement. The American aircraft escort for a short stretch, not to threaten, but to make sure there is no misunderstanding. Then, without drama, they peel away and fade back into the sky they came from, as if they were never there at all. On board the USS George Washington, the room slowly exhales, alerts clear from the screens. Tracks return to normal patterns. The carrier never changes course. It never accelerates. It never signals victory. The encounter ends the way the crew is trained to want it to end, controlled and contained, without a single shot fired. For the Venezuelan pilots, the flight back is quiet. Systems that look powerful on paper did not deliver when the pressure became real. The mission did not end in destruction, but it ended in exposure. They pushed forward expecting reaction, and instead found themselves inside a space they did not control. This moment will not dominate headlines, but it will shape behavior. It redraws invisible lines in the sky and reminds everyone watching that modern power is not proven by how close you fly, but by who decides when the encounter ends.